It's been said that memories are like the clips of a movie that we're only allowed to watch once. Eventually, the images blur and only fragments remain. But if something traumatic happens, those last images can be burned into our minds, as if the movie ended abruptly, with one of the main characters removed from the story. The following case is like that movie, only it's the real story of a young woman who was ready to set out on an adventure, one with new possibilities. But without any warning, she disappeared, leaving behind a mystery with a questionable character, a multitude of questions, and very few answers. This is the story of Alivia Kail. Alivia Christine Kail was born on October 16, 1991. Nicknamed Liv, she was the youngest of 5 children raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When she turned 18, she was very petite, standing only 5 feet tall and barely weighing 100 pounds. Her friends and family describe her as caring and expressive, a natural brunette who loved to change her hair color. And as her mom Christine would say, she was the type of person who would give you the coat off her back if you needed it. She also had a playful streak. In group photos, she'd be the one making funny faces in the background. She also enjoyed a bit of flair. She had piercings in her ears, nose, and a Monroe piercing above the right side of her lip. One of her most distinctive marks was a tattoo of a blue lily with swirls on her right hip. As carefree as she was, her life wasn't always easy. In October of 2010, just 2 days before her 19th birthday, her father Gerald passed away at the young age of 56. According to her brother Jeremy, Liv took the loss hard. And in the months after their dad's death, she struggled to pull her life back together. Adding to her pain, around that same time, Liv had ended a 3-year relationship with her longtime boyfriend, Zach. It was a quick succession of grief and heartbreak. But by early 2011, Liv seemed to be coming to terms with those setbacks. She had moved into an apartment with a close friend in Pittsburgh's Mount Washington neighborhood, an area known for its skyline views of the city. She was working on herself and healing from the past, looking toward the future. And that's when she met someone new, a young man who promised her a little bit of adventure and a chance to get away for a while. That young man was Alex Lorenzi. Alex Lorenzi was a 22-year-old from the Splin area of Pittsburgh. He traveled often, taking flights and renting cars to drive out of the state. He and Liv met in late 2010, and in February of 2011, after only dating each other for a few months, they took a trip together to Miami, Florida, and returned to Pittsburgh on March 3rd. The next day, March 4th, Liv stopped by her brother Lance's home. While she was there, she took a bag of clothes that she had kept there and told him that she was heading back to Miami with Alex on the 5th. So to recap, Liv and Alex had just returned home from Florida on the 3rd and were already planning on heading back down there the next day. According to Lance, Liv was in a great mood and mentioned that Alex had promised her he would cover all the costs of the trip. Before she left, she told Lance, "Don't worry about me, I'll be okay. I don't have to pay for this trip." Lance said he watched her get into Alex's red Ford Explorer and he waved goodbye to them as they drove away. And that would be the last time he ever saw her. On her first trip to Miami, Liv had called her brother the moment the plane landed to let him know she arrived safe. But this time, there were no calls, no texts, not even a Facebook post. So when their repeated attempts to contact her went straight to voicemail, her family started to get concerned. When they spoke to Alex, he gave them conflicting stories. At first, he said that Liv had decided to stay in Florida. Then he claimed he had actually dropped her off at her apartment when they returned from Miami, and that was the last time he saw her. Neither story could be verified, and neither one made sense. Liv's family had hoped she had simply lost her phone, but when her phone service was disconnected on March 19th for non-payment, they contacted the Allegheny County Police Department and filed a missing persons report. When investigators started looking into the case, they learned that Liv's phone had stopped connecting to the internet on March 5th, which was the same day that she left. That suggested that it was either turned off or had died. Its last ping was traced near the Allegheny County Airport in West Mifflin, which is still in the Pittsburgh area. And that was it. After March 5th, there is no proof that Liv ever left Pennsylvania or ever made it to Miami. Alex, on the other hand, did go to Florida, at least for a little while. His cell phone and travel records showed he was in Fort Myers from March 9th to March 15th and returned to Pittsburgh March 16th, without Liv. From the outset, Alex's behavior raised every red flag imaginable. He refused to cooperate with police and wouldn't answer any of their questions. He also refused to meet with Liv's family and changed his phone number to cut off any and all contact with them. On March 30th, roughly a month after Alivia disappeared, police executed a search warrant on Alex's home and his vehicles. Inside his home, they found marijuana and cocaine that had been packaged for distribution. They also found a handgun that turned out to be stolen after a burglary in a nearby town. In Alex's garage, detectives found a pink plastic tote bag filled with women's clothes. Liv's mother, Christine, would later identify many of the clothes as Liv's. Detectives also found 3 spent shell casings on the garage floor. Shell casings were also found in a pickup truck owned by Alex's father, which he had access to around that time. There were also reports that a bedsheet with what appeared to be a bloodstain on it was found during the search of Alex's property. That evidence was sent for testing, but to date, authorities have not disclosed the results. Police also found a plane ticket to Fort Myers, Florida. The ticket and other documents suggested that Alex was in Florida after March 5th, but there was no evidence that showed Liv was with him. Regardless, Alex was arrested on drug possession and stolen property charges, and he would later plead guilty and serve 3 months in jail. Despite all of the suspicious items, none of them was a smoking gun that proved that he committed a crime against Liv. Technically, all the police had on Alex were drug and gun charges, so that's what they nailed him on. And after his March 30th arrest, 6 more search warrants were executed in the following days on various properties and vehicles linked to him. Investigators were thorough. They even got a warrant for a DNA cheek swab from Alex, presumably to compare against any evidence they found. Through all of this, Alex maintained his silence and eventually hired a lawyer who reportedly told police, quote, "Mr. Lorenzi has nothing to say about Alivia Kail's disappearance." Investigators briefly eyed Liv's ex-boyfriend, Zach. just to cover all of their bases. They picked him up on an unrelated bench warrant on April 1st, 2011, and interviewed him. He cooperated fully and denied any involvement. He even spoke to the media, professing that he still cared for Alivia and would never hurt her. His arrest truly was unrelated, and police quickly cleared him as a suspect. After that, the focus swung right back to Alex. In August of 2011, while Alex was out on bond after posting a $100,000 bail, he had started dating a new woman. That same month, the woman's dog died mysteriously while under Alex's care. A necropsy, or animal autopsy, showed that the dog had died from blunt force trauma to the liver and internal bleeding. It was likely that the dog had been beaten to death, and Pittsburgh police charged Alex with felony animal cruelty. When officers arrived to arrest him for that, Alex lost his temper and assaulted a police officer. He even tried to toss away a bag of cocaine as they grabbed him. More charges were added against him: resisting arrest, assault on an officer, and another cocaine possession. But despite the red flags that he exhibited, there were still no answers about Liv. But now, there was a much clearer picture of who Alex Lorenzi was. A violent, criminal piece of shit who showed no remorse for his missing girlfriend, and someone who would fight cops and kill dogs. In March of 2012, which was the 1-year anniversary of Alivia Kail's disappearance, her family and community gathered for a candlelight vigil. To everyone's surprise, Alex Lorenzi's mother, Jeannie Lorenzi, showed up at the vigil. Not to mourn, but to proclaim her son's innocence to any TV reporters who would listen. This led to a tense confrontation in front of the cameras, and Liv's mother, Christine, approached Jeannie and said,
"Thanks for taking the opportunity to show up, and when your son is found guilty for what he did to my daughter, I will be there as well."
Jeannie snapped back.
"Well, same to you,"
before she walked off. It was high drama, but again, no new information was revealed. Alex himself didn't show up and maintained his silence. And meanwhile, the search for Alivia continued. In May of 2013, 2 years after Liv disappeared, a massive search was conducted on over 40 acres of woods behind the airport where Liv's cell phone last pinged. Over 80 personnel were involved, combing the terrain for any trace of Alivia. Searchers found bones, which raised everyone's hopes and fears. But forensic examination would later determine that the bones were from animal remains. Other searches would take place in Mount Washington, which was near Liv's apartment, and in a rural area 36 miles north of Pittsburgh, near the borough of Katanning. It's unclear why they searched there, but it's believed that it was connected to a tip or to Alex's travels. But nothing came of it. It's now been more than a decade since Alivia Kail took that fateful ride, and not a single confirmed sighting or message from her has surfaced. It's in that vacuum of evidence that theory and speculation emerge, each with its own implications, but not enough proof to close a case. The most prevalent theory is that Alex Lorenzi harmed Alivia, likely on March 5th before she left town. Perhaps an argument or a sinister motive led to violence, and he disposed of her somewhere between West Mifflin and the open road. The evidence hinting at this is circumstantial, but it's damning. her clothes found abandoned at his house, his ever-shifting stories, and the suspicious items like shell casings and a stained bedsheet. Detectives don't even believe that Alivia ever made it to Florida, but without a body or direct forensic evidence tying Alex to a crime, this remains unproven. The idea that Alivia could have chosen to disappear intentionally can't be completely ruled out. However, those who knew her say absolutely not, and that doing so would be completely out of character for her. It's only ever been considered because investigators must keep an open mind, but nothing in her history suggests that she'd put her loved ones through this kind of pain by choice. The FBI came out with a theory in this case that suggested that Alivia may have been kidnapped and forced into a sex trafficking ring. This theory gave the family a mix of hope and horror. Hope that she might still be alive, and horror at what she might have endured. Despite the speculation, there is no concrete trafficking links ever uncovered in this case. No suspicious financial transactions and no sightings in known trafficking hubs. Nothing. It remains a possibility, but without leads, it's like chasing shadows. Another twist on the foul play theory is that Alex didn't act alone, that friends or family helped him cover something up. Whether disposing of evidence or constructing an alibi, the Lorenzi family is close. Alex's own brother redirected police to Alex's lawyer, and his mother only broke her silence to defend her son. So, for instance, if something happened at Alex's home, could someone in his family have helped him cover or clean it up? The discovered items like shell casings in the work truck and at the house hint that more than one location could be involved. But without insider testimony, multiple actors remains speculative. Now, there was one odd lead that surfaced early in this case, and it was during an unrelated investigation into a Pittsburgh police officer who was accused of running a prostitution ring. Detectives actually found a keychain with the name Alivia Kail on it inside of a car that this officer had rented. The officer, Michael Johns, claimed he had never met or heard of Alivia, and his attorneys suggested the keychain was just a strange coincidence. He was not ever named a suspect in her case, and no further evidence tied that incident to Alivia. But it remains an intriguing footnote, or possibly a red herring. But it definitely fueled more questions. And as far as we know, there is no known connection to that rental car and Alex Lorenzi. So each of these theories ends with a question mark. No scenario can be confirmed without that missing puzzle piece, which is Alivia herself. Of course, statistically speaking, the scales tip in one direction. It's an uncomfortable truth of missing persons cases that the perpetrator is usually someone close to the victim. In the United States alone, over 55% of all female homicide victims are killed by a current or former intimate partner, and a staggering 92% of women who are murdered know their killer. Now, those numbers don't solve Alivia's case, but they do underscore why suspicions focus so heavily on Alex Lorenzi. Alivia was last seen leaving with Alex, and she was never heard from or seen again. And Alex's behavior in the aftermath of her disappearance fits more with someone who's hiding something. It certainly fits the tragic pattern we see far too often. That's the most likely scenario, supported by both evidence and statistics, that Alivia was met with foul play at the hands of someone she trusted, and her remains were hidden to cover a crime. Today, Alex Lorenzi is a free man, living his life somewhere in the Pittsburgh area. After serving a few months in jail in 2011 on those drug and stolen gun charges, and then later resolving the animal cruelty and assault charges, he has since slipped out of the public eye. No charges have ever been filed against him in connection to Alivia's case, because officially, there isn't a case against him without evidence. He's never given any credible explanation for what happened on that trip, and detectives say he refused to answer even basic questions. He lawyered up early, so there have been no police interrogations of him, and publicly, he said nothing at all. In the eyes of the law, he's just the person of interest who won't talk. One can imagine that in Pittsburgh social circles, being the guy whose girlfriend disappeared isn't exactly a badge of honor. Perhaps that's why Alex stays low-key. By most accounts, he hasn't reoffended in a major way, at least nothing that's hit the news. But the lingering question is, does Alex know what truly happened to Alivia Kail? Law enforcement certainly believes he has the answers. They just can't force him to share them. And unless someone comes forward with new information or evidence tying him to a crime, Alex is likely to remain a free citizen, albeit one under the cloud of suspicion. It's worth noting that time can change perspectives. People mature, and guilt can weigh on conscience. There's always a possibility, however slim, that Alex or someone he confided in might decide to speak up one day. But as of now, though he maintains his silence, the key he holds, metaphorically, to this whole mystery stays hidden in his pocket. Alivia Kail has been missing since March 5th of 2011. She was only 19 years old then, and would be 33 years old today. For her family, every one of those years has been an agonizing limbo, caught between mourning and hope, between moving on and holding on. Her mother, Christine, has been a pillar of strength and advocacy. She refuses to let Alivia be forgotten. She had plans of launching a podcast of her own, dedicated to Alivia's story and those of other missing persons, a way to connect with other families who suffer this unique pain, turning grief into action. Investigators continue to process tips as they come and periodically review the file for anything they can do differently, hoping to find that final puzzle piece. It's both a statement of hope and a grim reality. Without that piece, justice remains out of reach. One can only imagine who Alivia might have become. In 2011, she was a fun-loving teenager who could light up her room. Maybe today she'd be a nurse or a teacher or an entrepreneur. Maybe she'd have a family of her own. Those possibilities were stolen away. By whom or what? We still don't know for sure. But here's what we do know, and what we must hold on to. Someone out there knows something. People don't just vanish without a trace. Every missing persons case is solvable with the right information. Maybe it's the person who saw a red Ford Explorer parked oddly on a desolate road that night. Maybe it's a friend of Alex's who heard a troubling remark at a party. Maybe it's a completely unrelated individual who stumbled on buried remains while hunting or hiking and didn't realize what they found. As time passes, loyalties can change and memories can resurface. We appeal to anyone listening. If you have even a fragment of information that could help, please step forward. Contact the Allegheny County Police Department's Cold Case Unit or Crime Stoppers. Tips can be given anonymously, Let authorities decide if a lead is relevant. Don't assume something you noticed is too minor. It could be the keystone that completes the arch. Alivia Kail's story is unfinished. Her movie is stuck on pause. Her family deserves to know how it truly ends, and ideally, to bring her home one way or another. And until that happens, we'll have to keep telling her story, to keep her memory alive, and keep pushing for the truth. Thank you for listening to this episode of They Disappeared. For bonus content, you can visit our website, Facebook page, or our Patreon page, all of which are linked in the show notes. This episode was produced by Katie Hayes. To see and hear more of her work, please visit her website, katiehayes.com.